Warning. Warning. You are about to enter the propaganda report.
That's right.
With Brad Binkley. Warning. Warning. You are about to enter the propaganda report.
You've already entered. You're here.
With Brad Binkley. Warning.
It's too late to escape. You're already here.
You are about to enter the propaganda report with Brad Binkley.
This is the voice of Josh Warren, the music of Justin Ridgway. I am your host of the Propaganda Report, Brad Binkley. Before we get into the topic I promised you guys yesterday of the mysterious disappearing and dying scientists connected to the NASA propulsion lab, I feel like we should start with something that hits a little closer to home. Something we can all relate to, like the story of RFK Jr. once, while on a road trip with the fam, pulling off to the side of the road to cut off a dead raccoon's dick. That's as American as baseball. Who among us has not been on a relaxing vacation with loved ones and suddenly had that all-American urge to chop off the sexual organs of roadkill? Guilty. I've got a possum's vagina upstairs. Here's the story from the New York Post. It says, what is that? Robert Kennedy Jr., while on a family road trip, once pulled off the family sedan to the side of the road after spying a dead raccoon and swiftly cut off its sex organs so he could, quote, study them. What do you mean why, if you're wondering why? Because the cure to autism could be in that dick. You don't know it's not. And until autism is cured, the dick of every animal needs to be studied if we are going to eliminate the autist. RFK Jr.'s promise. He's doing the research most Americans are afraid to do because they don't want to touch roadkill dick. Fine. But if you want a better world, you got to chop off some D's. Continuing with the very relatable story. I don't know why they say bizarre account, New York Post, very judgmental. The bizarre account comes from a new book titled RFK Jr., The Fall and Rise. That's an interesting title. We're talking about penises. Authored by the Post's own Isabel Vincent, who drew upon a wide range of sources, including private journals that RFK Jr. penned while living in New York City between 1999 and 2001. This is apparently a quote from RFK Jr. I was standing in front of my parked car on I-684, cutting the penis out of a road-killed raccoon, thinking about how weird some of my family members have turned out to be. Because cutting a penis off of roadkill is not like something you have to really focus on a lot. You can do that while preoccupying your mind with the oddness of your family members. It's a pretty easy, it's a pocket knife. If you've never done it, then are you even American? He's standing there. He wasn't kneeling, so he must have picked it up. Let me read that quote again because I left off an important sentence at the end. I was standing in front of my parked car on I-684, cutting the penis out of a road-killed raccoon, thinking about how weird some of my family members have turned out to be. My kids waited patiently in the car. Just be patient, guys. Dad's got a dick to chop off. Wonder where he put it. Did he toss it in the trunk? Did it go in the glove compartment? Maybe he put it in a drink, like a straw that he had, maybe McDonald's drink. Plop it in there. These are the details that the article leaves out. But he told People magazine, so he's admitted to this, I guess, that he got the raccoon's genitals to study them later. You can add this to the growing list of dead animals that he's been looking for the cure to autism in. Obviously, we had the whale's head he put on the top of a family car one time, and his whale juice was apparently dripping in the car. There was the dead bear cub that he stumbled upon during a little bit of a drunken stupor, perhaps. And I don't remember exactly what they did with that. I don't think any intercourse was involved. Not admitted anyway. But whatever you got to do to get to the bottom of the autism problem. In America, this is Maha. This is what Maha looks like. This is what making the sausage really looks like. It's cutting the sausage off. It's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it. Okay, now on to the story that was in the news today, actually. The one I promised you guys yesterday, which came up in the White House press meeting when Peter Doocy asked Caroline Leavitt, let me put this up on screen for you guys, a question that's been weighing on the minds of many Americans, and thank you to El Hombre, the man who laughs on X, for sharing this with me. Here's what Peter Doocy asked the press secretary this afternoon.
There are now 10 American scientists who have either gone missing or died since mid-2024. They all reportedly had access to classified nuclear or aerospace material. Is anybody investigating this to see if these things are connected?
I've seen the report, Peter. I haven't spoken to our relevant agencies about it. I will certainly do that and we'll get you an answer. If true, of course, that's definitely something I think this government and administration would deem worth looking into. So let me do that for you.
There are now 10 American
let me do that for you.
who have either gone.
So she's going to find out. Are we going to get a follow-up to that? I don't know. How long would that take to figure out? Could she text somebody right in the moment? Feel like she could get at least a little information by the end of the meeting, but this is all we got. So this has been brought to the attention of the White House, is what this seems to be a demonstration of. Thank you very much, Elena. My hair looking dope. I appreciate that. Here's what I think. So this story to me is interesting. It's definitely intriguing on the surface, but what I want to look at this through a lens of is lying with statistics. And I'm not saying that's what's going on, but when I see a story like this, what comes to mind for me, especially for this topic, is they spent the past couple of years, more than a couple of years, almost 8 years at this point, slow rolling this UFO disclosure thing, changing it to UAP, saying there's a crash retrieval program, started in 2017, then it amped up a couple years ago with the congressional testimony and the movies coming out and it being embraced, the narrative being embraced fully by the government. This, to me, my instinct is that these stories are more loosely connected than they're being made out to be, but that the narrative is being made to seem like there's something tying them all together for the purpose of pushing this overarching UFO, UAP disclosure thing. I could be way wrong, but that was just the first thought that came into my mind when I was looking at those stories. And this question here, the fact that Peter Doocy brought it up, because Peter Doocy is a Fox News propaganda messenger. Doesn't mean that everything he says is wrong. Propagandists say things correct. They ask good questions sometimes. They have to. But nevertheless, I did find it interesting that he brought this to the attention of Caroline Leavitt. They already knew that this was going on. This has been brought up many, many times. They just had what they say was a 10th person disappear. I don't even think it happened this week. What I think happened was that they just roped in the disappearance of somebody that disappeared in 2023, and they tied it to this. I think that's part of it. Some people say 9 disappearing or killed. Others say 10. And so this is a good book right here for anybody. It's fun to read too. How to Lie with Statistics. This is the original one from like 1950 something. But I'll read to you just the final paragraph of the intro where he states the purpose of writing this book. He says, this book is a sort of primer in ways to use stats to deceive. It may seem altogether too much like a manual for swindlers. Perhaps I can justify it in the manner of the retired burglar who published reminiscence amounted to a graduate course in how to pick a lock and muffle a footfall. The crooks already know these tricks. Honest men must learn them, too, in self-defense. I completely agree with that assessment there. Then his first chapter, which I'm not going to read, but it does relate to this, the sample with built-in bias. So what kind of sample are we pulling here? And I didn't go through all the numbers, and I saw some analysis that some other people did. I don't completely agree with the parameters that they chose, but there's many ways that a stat like this can be manipulated. There was a story a few years back, I think it was 2019, where there was all these article after article about New Yorkers going missing in the Dominican Republic. It was attributed to poisoned beer, or there's a few explanations given, and it became, for a little while, a few months, it became this story about why are New Yorkers disappearing in the Dominican Republic. The questions that weren't asked in those stories, which the story just kind of disappeared, were how many people go disappearing in the Dominican Republic on a regular basis? How many New Yorkers are there? A lot of Dominicans live in New York. So more New Yorkers are traveling to the Dominican Republic than others. So that's one stat that isn't put in there that is a thread to pull to go see if maybe it's not an anomaly. And the more you looked at it, so there's cheap flights, there's cheaper flights and vacation packages for New Yorkers, which means more of them went. And the actual statistics, as it turns out, the numbers, there wasn't any actual uptick in Dominican Republic deaths of tourists. So the number of tourists dying did not rise. And yet there was this brief media-generated New Yorkers dying in the Dominican Republic when they go visit, tourists, that wasn't true in the context of normal activity. It wasn't any different. Now, it doesn't mean some of the deaths weren't mysterious. It just means they were made to seem mysterious because the media, for some reason, the media-setting agenda, or the agenda-setting theory where the media, social media, they control what people think about, care about, the context and frame, people analyze things through, decided for some reason in that time to focus on that. And that's what people saw. They didn't see all of the other information because you're not going to see it unless you go look for it. And then that kind of fell out of the news. I don't know what was going on at that time that might have been a thing. That might have been around the time. No, that wasn't Venezuela. It's Cuba. I'm thinking about the energy weapons they're talking about now. Yeah, I wonder what propaganda narrative that was serving. I'm sure there was one. And then when it served its use, it just kind of fell out. There was no real resolution. So you weren't more likely to die if you went to the Dominican Republic than you were at any other point in time, is the ultimate takeaway. But it would seem that maybe, especially if you're from New York, you might have been. But it wasn't really true. So that takes me back to this. And I'm not saying that's what this is, but I did want to look at it a little bit. So yeah, cherry picking the stats. Confusing correlation with causation, shifting definitions, obviously missing context. That's a lot of stuff that this book goes through. It's a really good book. And it's a quick read because it's fun. He's funny about it. But in this case, I want to look at the news here. So these disappearances and deaths are being described as mysterious. That's part of, you label that on something, and that in and of itself makes it mysterious. Because people do disappear and die. Not always called mysterious. Somebody probably disappeared in a park somewhere today. It's not being reported as mysterious unless it can be linked to this story. Maybe it is mysterious. Maybe it should be. Nevertheless, definitions are often meant to confuse. The fact that people reporting different numbers is that to me seems like some are connecting all, and we can't even agree on how many it is. Let me put this on screen. I want to show you the graph because we have one of these charts that shows all the people. These are fun. I mean, it's not fun when people disappear or die, obviously, but these little conspiracy connectors are kind of ridiculous, but also helpful. Let me make that a little bigger. All right, so here you see here, there's only 7 people on this. So the chart they have, it only even has 7 people connected to it. And that's the NASA JPL Center right there, the Jet Propulsion Lab. That's where a lot of the connections to like the UAP stuff comes from. And so this is a funding mechanism. So these are all the ones that can be loosely tied to this NASA Jet Propulsion Lab. So 3 of them look like they directly work with that Jet Propulsion Lab. One of them donates money to a foundation that donates money to one of the ones that work there. Or maybe 4 of them. Maybe this one also. Looks like 4 are connected to it directly. And then you have these up on the right who are like a 3 layers removed connected. So they're connected to one organization that's connected to another organization that's connected to a guy who donated money to another organization that donated money to one of the women who worked for the Jet Propulsion Lab. I'll give you a brief description that I found so far of the people who disappeared. Monica Reza, missing in June 2025. A materials scientist and director of the materials processing group at NASA Jet Propulsion Lab. Vanished while hiking in the Angeles Fort National Forest. Reports indicate she was hiking with a companion. She fell 30 feet behind and was never seen again. With scent dogs losing her trail. I assume they questioned the companion. You fall 30 feet behind. Maybe it was a I'll catch up type thing. I don't know. My first question here is how experienced of a hiker was she or any of these people? Because that's one of the stats I was reading about disappearances that go on in these forests around the country. And they've done studies on a lot of them, and experience hiking is a major factor. Also, though, you can't exclude, if you do want to disappear somebody, taking them into the forest is a good way to do it because of these explanations I'm providing. That's why it's kind of a double-edged sword here. So I'm definitely not ruling out any oddness going on, but that's what I would want to know. I'd want to know what was her experience. I would want to know how many people disappear in this forest on a regular basis, which I found out in California, this forest is the most populated and has the most disappearances. They don't keep a centralized record of it, and this forest doesn't do it themselves, but there was a study done in 2021 about disappearances, and they found this one to be where the most search and rescue operations are called in, looking for disappearing people. And the only one I could find stats for was Yosemite, which has over 200 a year search and rescue missions, and this one has more than that. So it's not an uncommon thing for that to happen. But like I said, if you know that and you want to disappear somebody, then there you go. But yeah, I can't draw a conclusion based on that because it's not terribly uncommon. Second person, General William Neal McCasland, missing February 2026. Retired Air Force general who commanded the Air Force Research Laboratory. He vanished after leaving his Albuquerque home on foot, leaving behind his phone, his wallet, and he was known to have ties to the UFO research community and sensitive space program, weapons program. The items missing from his home were hiking boots, a wallet, a .38 caliber revolver with a leather holster, and a red backpack. So it seems, mysterious. He's got that gun. If I were going hiking, I would take my gun. I'd take my gun most places. So that in and of itself, I don't know that he was believed to be wearing a light green long sleeve button up outdoor shirt, gray Air Force sweatshirt. So his Air Force sweatshirt was later found a mile east of the home. No blood detected. Some reports noted hiking boots and a shirt later located at his second home. At a second home a few miles away, which complicated the search. So maybe he left his wife. His wife has rejected theories of dementia or confusion, stating he was not disoriented. She reportedly told authorities that he planned not to be found. That's interesting. She said that of the initial 911 call, though details remain limited. He had mentioned experiencing mental fog in the period leading up to his disappearance. Even cited for a reason of stepping down. Most of these people are older, by the way, which we're going to get to the age factor on this, because in a second we're going to look at, going back to statistics, the number of employees that work for this organization they're connecting it to, and what the average number of people disappearing per year might be, to see if this is any higher than it would be. Because if this is the average number every year, then either people are getting disappeared all the time and they're not focusing on it, or people disappear. Or maybe they all were either killed because they were about to speak up, or they went to their bunkers underneath the ocean. That's also a possibility. All right, get this off screen. On to the third one. I'll check out some of y'all's chats in a second. Anthony Chavez, missing in May of 2025, an employee of Los Alamos National Laboratory, which collaborates with NASA. That's a loose connection. But does he collaborate? Does he have access to information? Which, if you're working with high level of sensitivity, information that's valuable, it's classified, then you could be the target of compromise. You could be someone that other countries might go after. But is that the case? This guy left his car locked in his driveway. Okay, everybody does that almost. He left his keys and his wallet behind. The LA Police Department was notified and formally reported the case on May 25th. They searched trails, residences, businesses. They reviewed surveillance footage. Officers hiked. They passed flyers out. And so they found no trace of that guy. This is what I found after I haven't done a super deep dive on all these people yet. I've only done a little bit, so there could be more information that I haven't looked at yet. Number 4, Melissa Cassius, missing June 2025, also an employee of Los Alamos National Laboratory, which again is not, they collaborate with NASA. So that's more of a secondary connection. We don't have any idea if these people did anything with NASA Jet Propulsion Lab. She went missing shortly after Chavez, with reports stating her mobile devices had been wiped clean. My question here is, were they having an affair? Was there any sexual relationship going on with them? Was there any relationship between these two at all? If they disappeared around the same time? And did she normally wipe her mobile devices clean? Is that out of the ordinary? Some people always wipe their mobile devices clean. Or is it possible that someone in her family wiped her mobile devices clean? A family acquaintance saw her around 2:15 to 2:18 walking eastbound on State Road 518 in Talpa near Rancho de Tios. I'm sure I said that wrong. Heading towards Pot Creek and the Carson National Forest sign. So I wonder if it's normal to be walking on that road, or is that a highway that it's abnormal to be walking on? I don't know that area well. She was wearing the same clothes, appeared to have a backpack, and did not seem obviously distressed. So she was going for a hike, and that is a pattern here. Hiking disappearances. Don't go hiking if you're even loosely connected to the NASA Jet Propulsion Lab, is the takeaway so far. As of September 2025, authorities, and no major breakthroughs have been reported this year. They stated there were no updates and had not ruled out foul play, though some family members, including her daughter and husband, suggested it could be she left voluntarily due to possible personal or financial stressors. If that's coming from her daughter and husband, it's definitely not something to discount. Number 5, Stephen Garcia, a property custodian at the Kansas City National Security Campus with top-level clearance. He was last seen on surveillance footage leaving his home on foot, wearing camouflage and carrying a handgun. You put on the camo and go out in a handgun. Maybe you wear camo all the time. People in the South sometimes just wear camo. Sometimes I wear camo because we're a little rednecky down here. Is this out of the ordinary for him to wear camo and carry a handgun? Did he also have black stuff under his eyes? Did he do like the blackface thing so he couldn't be seen? If that's the case, definitely suspicious. He worked as a property custodian. I mentioned that. At the National Security Campus. So the place where he worked plays a critical role in U.S. national defense. It manufactures more than 80% of non-nuclear components for the military nuclear weapons. The position gave him security clearance and broad access across the facility. Someone that would definitely be useful, possibly to, well, I don't know about definitely, but probably to foreign adversaries. And then the next category is listed, those are the first 5, as related mysterious deaths. Already 2 of the first 5 were loosely connected to NASA jet propulsion and high-level security clearance. So Michael David Hicks, this is a more recent one. July 2023, but they just now reported it, like I think this past week. He was a NASA JPL astronomer who worked on the DART asteroid deflection project. His death was not initially reported because it was an immediate release, and there's no autopsy on record. And people act like that's suspicious. If somebody dies, you don't do we do an autopsy on my parents when they died. Most people, when they don't have a reason to do an autopsy, they're not going to do one. So it's not suspicious, that in and of itself. It just depends on the circumstances. And I looked this up because his family in the obit wanted the proceeds to go to Alcoholics Anonymous. And apparently the medical examiner listed his cause of death as heart disease. And the guy I think he was almost 60. His death was ruled natural, heart disease related, natural causes. I guess like heart attack. Is that? No signs of foul play were reported. And so I looked up, was he obese? And yes, he was apparently listed as obese. His medical examiner listed him as having morbid obesity, and that being a significant contributor to his death. Maybe it was a heart attack gun from a distance. But this seems like a guy who was overweight, had a drinking problem most of his life, and that contributed to him dying at not super young, but younger. This one doesn't seem mysterious to me at all, and yet it was just recently reported and tied into all this simply because he did have a job with that place. It's possible that there's some connection there, but also we shouldn't rule out the explanation here that seems to have just as much plausibility. Frank Malwald died July 2024, a NASA JPL principal researcher who died in Los Angeles under undisclosed circumstances. That's all the information I have on him. Do a little more research than that. Number 8, Carl Gillimeyer died February 2026, an astrophysicist whose work was supported by the NASA JPL, Jet Propulsion Lab. He was shot to death on his front porch in a suspected homicide. Well, I would suspect it to be a homicide as well when someone is shot to death on their front porch. I don't think he died of a heart attack. He was shot 15 times. Cause of death was ruled a heart attack. I mean, I guess it is possible. Freddie Snyder, number 9. No, wait. This is the guy who killed him. This guy named Freddie Snyder is a local person from the same area, had prior legal problems. He was arrested and charged with murder, carjacking, and burglary. I don't have any more details on that one. And then number 9, Nuno Lourinho died December 2025. He was at MIT, professor and physicist working on fusion energy, and he was shot and killed at his home by that dude. Remember the mass shooting at Brown University, that weird story? And the guy who shot him was apparently somebody who failed out of physicist school. He went to physicist school with him, and he was bitter. And then the guy went to a storage facility, and he made videos saying he's not sorry, confessing, and then blew his head off or killed himself. I don't know where he shot himself. Maybe he shot himself to death in the dick. I don't know. I just know he killed himself, okay, in the storage facility. And he put his confession on. It was a very weird story. But there was somebody who admitted to doing it. Still weird. Maybe MK Ultra. Number 10, Jason Thomas, a pharmaceutical researcher at Novartis who disappeared in December 2025 and later found dead in a lake. However, authorities do not suspect foul play, but what do they know, right? He worked as a senior researcher, assistant director level senior researcher in chemical biology at the pharmaceutical company. He focused on areas such as cancer treatment, biomaterials, and sensor integration or related biomechanical research. So that's like putting sensors in people. Some reports note that that company holds active Department of Defense contracts. Was he working on him? Did he have clearance? His family and friends said he had been struggling emotionally after the recent deaths of both his parents in the fall of 2025. On March 17, 2026, after ice thawed, his body was recovered from a nearby lake. Clothing and other preliminary details matched him, and the medical examiner confirmed his identity in the manner of death. He froze to death. So they say no foul play. Are they saying suicide or just this accident? He drove in the lake or he walked into the lake? Maybe fell through the ice? Is it something? I don't know. I need to get more details on some of these. So that's the short overview of these deaths. Some of them loosely connected to jet propulsion. Some of them 2 or 3 steps removed connected. The one guy, I don't even think, even though he worked for jet propulsion from 2023, seems to be a pretty... His cause of death seems to be backed up by his family and seems to be just the way somebody dies normally. It's like 4 of these names I would scratch off the list personally if we're doing a real investigation. I would leave it open to maybe if new information came out, but the ties are just, it's like they're stretching. It's why I think they're doing this to further that narrative that disclosure's coming. I think they want us to believe this is all tied together because of some Project Bluebeam that's going to happen or something like that. So here's an analysis that somebody did, and I don't like their parameters, but I am going to base part of my analysis on it. I'll show it to you guys. Thank you. I appreciate that. It could be sacrifice executions disguised as that. You're right. No, you're definitely right. But also, it's It's tough to distinguish something like that. That story is weird with Brown University, but any death that I would think they would try and disguise deaths. Of course, what was it? What was Hillary Clinton's, the guy she used to work with? Shot himself in the back of the head twice. That's the story. Vince, what was that guy's name? You guys probably know it. All right. So here's one of the statistics that this person, I can't remember their name, put together. Based on CDC and FBI national average, what's the wrong one? I'm retarded. Okay. This is the workforce size. The workforce size of NASA, they employ 18,000 civil servants, over 40,000 contractors, including the JPL. Demographic, 40% of their science and engineering were 55 or older. And all of these people who died, I believe, were 50s and 60s, I think. Maybe, might have been one a little bit younger. Mortality rates in the U.S. mortality between 55 and 64 is 8.5 to 9 deaths per 1,000 people per year, just in general. And so the way they calculated it, they said if you have a pool of 10,000 NASA JPL scientists in that senior age bucket, statistically, you would expect 80 to 90 deaths per year from natural causes like heart disease. Over a 3-year period, which is what this is, with that one guy from 2023 thrown in, you would expect 240 to 270 deaths. So that's interesting, but I think her numbers are too big here because the Jet Propulsion Lab has 5,500 people, employees, based on Wikipedia and their website as of, I think, earlier this year. So I would reduce all of this stuff here, starting with 5,000 instead of 5,800 or 6. So she used 60,000 basically as her base number, putting these two numbers together at top. I would use 5,500. So 5,500 of 58,000, 60,000 was the number she used as a baseline for her calculations. 5,500 is 9% of that. So let's reduce all these things. What's 9% of all of these numbers she did? 5,500 of 60,000 is 9%. 9% of 240, the amount of deaths that she said, dadgummit. The amount of deaths she said to be expected over a 3-year period is 21.84. So 21.84, hold on. Man, I can't. All right. Okay, so 21.84 deaths is what you would expect if you have 5,500 employees over a 3-year period. That fits. I mean, but then you have to factor in how many other deaths that they're not connecting to this have happened. Are there any? That's actually a good question. I didn't even think about that till just now. Have anybody died related to the Jet Propulsion Lab in the past 3 years that they are not connecting to this? Or has anybody died that can be loosely connected in the way that that graph showed that has not been connected to this? I bet the answer is no. Because every time they find a way to connect somebody to this, they put it like on that chart and they attribute it to this. So if there are no people who died in these organizations or related ones that aren't connected to this, then that to me is telling right there. Because people die in big organizations with over 5,000 people. And if they just attribute all of them, it doesn't mean that there's nothing to some of them. It just means that they're diluting the credibility of their claims. If they're throwing it all in, they care more about the narrative. And Peter Ducey bringing that question up tells me that that's what this is. Like that just seems so staged. She obviously knew what he was going to ask. I'm going to get those numbers for you. And the way he asked it, that was a very staged thing. And it happened right as it was bubbling up to its peak on social media. What was the other one here? Okay, so she has some more stats. Talking about suicide. This is a 60,000 number over a 3-year period. Suicide 25 to 30, you would expect over of 60,000 people. 9 to 12 homicides, 15 to 20 accidental drownings. Missing persons, hundreds of initial reports, a couple of them that ultimately go cold. I don't know if these cases have gone cold yet. So let's reduce that based on our number of 5,500. So suicides, if you have 5,500 employees over a 3-year period, based on these numbers, you would have 2.7 suicides. Homicides, you'd have 1 or 2. What was the last one there? Accidental deaths, you'd have just under 2. So those averages kind of check out with what we're seeing here. Could be. My conclusion on this is that it's worth looking into. I don't think there's nothing there, but I also am not convinced there's something there. I'm definitely convinced they're trying to push a broader narrative to make us think that aliens are coming. That's what this fits to me. So I'm not ruling it out, but I'm also not convinced. So here's this guy here, this AV Lab Loeb guy who used to be part of one of those programs. Hold on. I can't remember what program he was part of, but he's like one of the alien guys. And he was asked about this the other day. And he doesn't believe there's a connection, but I'm also not really inclined to believe what this guy says. But he did say, yeah, good to meet you too, Andy. I loved that show we did in Tennessee. Did I show Tripoli what white lightning can do? I didn't get a chance to play basketball with Tripoli. Maybe next time he's here. Maybe in Tennessee. They're going to be doing another show in Tennessee, I think, at the end of the year, September, I believe. Steve told me they're going to be doing another one, so I'll definitely be going up there for that one. And that'll be fun. I had a blast with Sam down here, though. It was a fun show. Here's Avi. That's not him, but it's kind of in the middle of this report because I thought what he said at the end was interesting. So sorry, it's just going to kind of jump in the middle here.
To national security, but I do not see a threat that would be alarming at this time, and especially given that President Trump gave a directive to Secretary of War Pete Hegseth to release any classified information about unidentified anomalous phenomena that might be of great interest, of course, in if those objects that were identified are non-human made. So I'm more looking forward to that release than anything else, and I don't think we should be alarmed at this point regarding the scientists that disappeared.
I do want to go back to what you just brought up about President Trump and all of that, but I want to talk to you about this first. When it comes to this kind of research and sensitive information or national security projects, would you say there are risks that are involved with that professionally or otherwise that maybe us here in the public that are not in these roles, maybe we don't understand?
Yeah, definitely, because adversarial nations might be interested in some of these secrets, and they could have operations either trying to get information about what these programs entail, and or perhaps even follow individuals. And so definitely it comes with the territory. If you sign up for a classified program, that you have to worry about being monitored, about that data being available to espionage in that regard. And
I thought that was interesting. That makes sense. But he says he doesn't see a connection, but definitely if you work in these programs, it's something you need to worry about, being the target of espionage, perhaps a little disappearing hiking.
That is a risk that everyone involved knows about. And also, of course, if you are a high-level government official, you face similar risks because you are exposed to information that many people around the world might want to know.
Avi, we only have 30 seconds, but I got to ask you this question. Is there a such thing as aliens? Is there an alien life out there somewhere?
Oh, I think it's very likely because there are 100 billion stars like the sun, and most of them formed billions of years before the sun. There was plenty of time for those civilizations to develop, just like we did on Earth. And we just have the duty of searching for them. And perhaps the government has some data related to that. And I very much look forward to looking at this data if it comes public.
All right,
if it comes public.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ari Loeb. Always a pleasure. So if the story tomorrow is Avi Loeb disappeared hiking in Angeles Forest, then I'll be convinced. As of yet, I'm open to it, but I think this is part of a broader deception campaign, personally. Doesn't mean there aren't mysterious circumstances surrounding the deaths. They just want us to believe it's like a certain specific thing that's about to drop. Definitely a lizard person. That guy's totally a lizard person. That's why, he's not going to disappear. Lizards don't go hiking. All right, I'm going to show you guys one more thing. Then I can get out here. Then I'm going to go tell some dick jokes at a show. So I briefly mentioned that me and a friend, we went to something called Curiosity Lab. Just noticed it driving home late at night, and there was a big bright sign that said Curiosity Lab in front of a hotel, and it was interesting. So we went to the hotel and we asked the guy working there about it, and he was kind of like, I'm surprised you came in asking about that. He was real, it was like an X-Files episode, it felt like, the way he talked about it. He was a cool guy, but he was talking about how it kind of freaks him out. And he described it to us a little bit. And so we went and found where exactly it was. And it really reminded me of Severance. It's like we were in the movie Severance for a little while. They had these wide lanes, but not like bike lanes. They were clearly for something else, wider than bikes. And they had these poles that looked like maybe where you wait for a bus, but they were strangely futuristic. And even a couple signs were upside down. Somebody had to go in there as a prank, it's a weird prank, but they were just upside down street signs. And so I started looking at their website to find out what we did, because we're looking in the windows of these buildings and these weird structures, and I'm like, it's like we're probably putting our face in like a facial recognition biometric data collector. It's probably like a trick to get people to do that. And the inside of it looked like the set of Severance on the inside, even more than it did on the outside. But here I found out that this is one of the most sophisticated, according to them, smart cities in the country, where they welcome and they test some of the most advanced smart technology, they say, in the world. I don't know if that's true. I guess they're all going to say that. They're not going to be like, we test some of the worst smart technology in the world. So I don't know if we can take them at the word, but here is them describing the smart city that we explored the other night.
Welcome to the Curiosity Lab, in the heart of Silicon Orchard, one of the world's most advanced smart mobility testing destinations. It's home to advanced design and engineering teams from across North America and around the most advanced.
So there's 4 screens here. And you could see images like this everywhere. They had these blue lines going everywhere. It looked like the cars were shooting jizz out at each other and out at the people everywhere. And everybody had different colored jizz. It says 360 awareness, direct, and network modes.
Smart mobility testing destinations. It's home to advanced design and engineering teams from across.
See those lanes right there? Those wide lanes, almost as wide as the regular lanes.
It's home to advanced design and engineering teams from across North America and around the globe. We have the most advanced sensors and cameras, surveying, scanning, and painting in real time a real-world environment with the unrehearsed choreography.
Look at these look at the buses here. So that's what the lanes are for. It's those weird buses. And there's the pink jizz. It looks like a video game with these circles, doesn't it?
Sensors and cameras, surveying, scanning, and painting in real time. We have the most advanced sensors and cameras, surveying, scanning, and painting in real time a real-world environment with the unrehearsed.
You see that? It's got people. It's like doing biometrics on people.
Choreography of fully autonomous vehicles interacting with dynamic human-driven traffic, pedestrians, cyclists, even self-driving e-scooters.
Self-driving e-scooters? Jeez. Jesus.
Miles of city-owned and controlled public roadway, known as Technology Parkway. On the parkway itself, autonomous shuttles are the most visible of features, and partners like Beep, T-Mobile, and OVH Cloud join us to provide the community this emerging technology on a daily basis. The Curiosity Lab also has a specially equipped test vehicle with over 1,000 attach points for precise placement of cameras, sensors, and myriad other monitoring devices.
1,000 attach points for myriad of, is it monitoring devices?
For precise placement of cameras, sensors, and myriad other monitoring devices.
Oh, great.
Any given day, delivery robots on the ground and UAV drone systems overhead are executing highly monitored sorties and feeding valuable data back into the Innovation Center, where engineers will continue their process.
There's the Severance cast. What are they executing?
Where
what?
engineers will continue their valuable data back into the Innovation Center,
Sorry,
where
I'm trying to hear
sorties and feeding valuable data back on the ground and UAV drone systems overhead are executing highly monitored sorties and feeding valuable data back into the Innovation Center, where engineers will continue.
So that's why yesterday I said I think we gave them more information, data than we realized, because I saw some what looked like drones at one point, and it said these streets are monitoring everything all the time. So it's collecting this data and is feeding it back into it. So we're on a little adventure looking around at this place, I was wondering why there weren't any security around. Because usually in my life, when I've done something like that, there's been a security guard at the very least to say, hey, you're not allowed on this property. A police officer coming to threaten to arrest you. More normally, usually that's a cop will come there and say, you got to get out of here, or you're going to be under arrest. Security guard at the very least. There was no security person there. We walked around this whole building. They had stuff outside. We didn't steal it, but somebody could try to steal it. They might even want you to steal it because it has these 1,000 data collecting points, and you can take it to wherever crack house you're going to take it to if you're stealing it, and it'll just collect data on you, and it'll feed it back to the drone, and it'll take it over to that little data dumpster. It spits it in. There was no security person there that did anything. There might have been one inside, I think, because they welcomed what we were doing, because it's data.
Continue their process of final refinement. However, some of the most important work being done is virtually invisible.
Sorry, I'm going to hear that again.
Where engineers will continue their process of final refinement. However, some of the most important work being done is virtually invisible to the casual observer. But look up at nearly every light pole and traffic signal, and you will find high-technology arrays of cameras, sensors, and transmitters that feed massive amounts of data through T-Mobile's latest 5G network to be aggregated into discernible packets via edge computing. Then,
discernible packets.
Shared to the cloud via ultra-high-speed computing solutions like...
So you say shared to the cloud. We saw this. I walked through this, and we were wondering if I was going to walk out in another dimension with these little things. There's got to be data sensors in this thing.
Ultra high-speed computing solutions like OVH Cloud This goes on 365, 24/7, making Technology Parkway perhaps the most high-tech public roadway in North America. The roadway itself even has large solar panels embedded.
So 365, 24/7. They definitely got a lot of data on us.
Ultra high-speed computing solutions like
OVE plus E. I got to see what that is. OVH plus E. Oh, the cloud. I guess that's what that is.
OVH Cloud. This goes on 365, 24/7, making Technology Parkway perhaps the most high-tech public roadway in North America. The roadway itself even has large solar panels embedded into the surface. And while autonomous vehicles travel over it countless times a day, the panels feed the electrical vehicle charging stations at City Hall. Every day, new tests are being performed. Every day, new conversations are taking place. Every day, startups and industrial giants gather at Curiosity Lab to prove the readiness and reliability of tomorrow's smart mobility and smart city technologies.
Yeah, the hotel guy was like legitimately freaked out by this place when he was telling us about it, and he thought most people were robots around there. It was refreshing for him to meet a couple people that weren't robots. At least he thought we weren't. We're convincing him otherwise. Curiosity Lab sounds like a transhumanist cover built by Bill Gates funded BlackRock, says Andy. Yeah, a little bit. I mean, definitely had a Bill Gates feel. Valuable data, says Gerald. Like how many times I've said taxation is theft and in the Fed. Yeah, I didn't say any of that there, but yeah, that's the data they collect through social media. Don't ever tell Grok that, because it will end up as part of your file. What's the dude doing that coon? Is that what you, what's that question you're asking? Self-driving into a effing tree the minute you criticize Israel, says Gerald. Yeah, they can't take control of your cars. That's for sure. Million-mile internet that travels like light years, but can't show the space shuttle re-enter the atmosphere. Yeah, I was never, like, I could care less about Artemis. That was the stupidest. I didn't care at all about that. Everyone needs more dick jokes. I agree, Andy. And that's what I'm going to go do now. I'm going to go tell some dick jokes at some weird bar in Buckhead. I don't know who's going to be there. But they're going to hear dick jokes because, like you said, more people need to hear them. Thanks for watching. Hang out with me, guys. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm guest hosting Liberty Libations. If you're not subscribed to the Propaganda Report podcast on your favorite podcast app, do so. The Propaganda Report, whatever podcast app you listen on. If you want to get access to the subscriber-only content that Sam Tripoli and Austin Picard and I do called Whatever This Is, you can get that on patreon.com/propaganda report. Subscribe to the lowest tier, or you can get that at propreport.locals.com. If you also get access to the audio version of the show, ad-free, I take out the ads for audio listeners only. We have a lot of audio listeners. And if you are an audio listener on your pod app and you don't want to subscribe, just let the ads play through. We don't get anything if the ads are skipped. WSB Radio, we would do 3-hour shows, and it would be 90 minutes of show and then 90 minutes of dick pill ads. The ads are 5 minutes or less on these shows, far more content than we used to do there. So that helps us out. Follow me at youtube.com/Brad Binkley, rumble.com/PropReport, Instagram.com/Propaganda Report, at Freedom Act Radio on X. All my links are in bio, no feet pics. You can make one-time donations to paypal.me/Brad Binkley or monthly donation if you want to do that there as well. I believe that's all the places. Also, rockfin.com/Propaganda Report. I think I covered it all. There's so many different platforms. You can also leave a tip on the videos on Rumble or YouTube, or you can leave a 5-star review and a comment that warms my heart. That motivation is fuel to me, and it helps me continue on this shared mission we're on together to call out the BS and have fun while doing it. Propagandafight.com is the website. Thanks again, guys. Good to see all you guys. Steve said, I seen you had White Lightning as your name on whatever this is recently. Yeah, sometimes I go with my alias of White Lightning, or as Grubinator, good show, Mr. Blastoff, Johnny Blastoff, my other alias. Please bash woke feminism. Woke feminism bashes itself, I think. But yeah, I'll happily bash woke feminism on the next show tomorrow during Liberty Libations. I'll make a point to do that, because there's nothing more fun than that. Oh, you're saying at the show tonight, you're saying bash woke feminism during stand-up. Okay, happily. I will happily do that. Thanks, guys. See y'all tomorrow. Have a fantastic rest of y'all's day. That's right, Steve. Nothing